Acum aș vrut să știm opinia dumneavoastră despre candidații americani. Popșu, că da. Сильно
У меня такой вопрос. Скажите, изменится международная политика Соединенных Штатов после выборов нового президента? Ну, я подразумеваю, будет выстраивать США дальше свои позиции в отношении Косово, и не думаете ли вы, что это принесет некий разлад в Европейский Союз, что может повлечь, можно сказать, развал? Спасибо.
Let me first get to this gentleman's question about who do I support. You want to get me fired? I support the process. I worked first for Jimmy Carter. I started in November, actually the day after Ronald Reagan was elected, but the election was in November and he became president in January. So I first started with Carter, then I worked under Reagan, then I worked under George Bush 41, then I worked under Clinton. Now I'm working under George Bush 43, and soon I'm going to be working for somebody else. The politics in that sense don't make, I mean, I have a personal view, but I'm not sharing it. Because, in fact, I think I have an obligation to vote, but I also have an obligation as a government employee to support my government. And largely, and I'll get to the question about our politics changing, much of our politics, both domestic and international, stay roughly the same from administration to administration, and it's 5 to 10% that changes. It's not the whole thing that changes. So in that sense, there are some candidates I like a little more, some I like a little less, but there's nobody outside, for me, outside of what's acceptable. And I think that's how a lot of government people look at it. And frankly, it's the way many Americans look at it. They would prefer this one, but we can live with that. There was a recent poll where 71% of Hillary Clinton's supporters said they would be perfectly happy if Barack Obama won. And 72% of his voters said that they would be perfectly happy if she won. They're running at this point against each other, but yeah, they support them pretty strongly the other. So I waffled, but I think you get it. In terms of Kosovo, I do not believe that a new administration would change anything about Kosovo. I would note the issues that led to what happened on February 17th started in the 1990s. And in 1999, when Bill Clinton, a Democrat, was president, the UN made a certain number of votes, took a certain set of votes that the Russians are now saying shouldn't have been exceeded, what they say is exceeded. But we have an expression in English about the train already on the tracks. I think for many people in 1999, we saw that at some point Kosovo would become independent. So in terms of the administration changing that much, I think particularly in Kosovo, we have the Democrats who, if they win, they started the stuff, well, the sort of started stuff, but the issues, our engagement in Kosovo started under Democrats, has continued under Republicans, and will continue in the next administration where it's a Republican, almost certainly if it's a Republican, it's John Haney, or Democrat. So I think for those reasons, you shouldn't expect much change. In terms of the EU aspect of it, I think that will Kosovo start a fight in the EU? It depends on a variety of things. Most of the EU countries supported the United States position, and the United States position was identical with theirs. France, England, who are in part of the Permanent 5 in the UN, were with us, and a number of other countries were. Some countries are less excited about this in the EU. Romania is unexcited about it. It's one time where I see Romania and Moldova's policies overlap, it seems. Greece seems not particularly excited about it. Spain seems not particularly excited about it. And Cyprus seems to downright hate it. But, the EU has a remarkable way of figuring out how they more or less move together. For those of you who've studied biology and are familiar with amoeba, it kind of walks along. And in that sense, I think the EU will walk along and eventually reach a common position for 27. I think that, we have said all along that Kosovo is a different situation from other countries. Not everybody has believed us. I think, though, that we've been consistent on that, and that there are advantages to a number of countries to agreeing that it's consistent. because I think at some point Kosovo will be recognized by the vast majority of countries, maybe eventually by all. And it becomes many of the countries' dissatisfaction with the solution on Kosovo is related to, yeah, but we have a separatist vision, and it could influence us. That, I think, is why Romania is not very happy about it. It says, look what's going to happen to Transylvania, and Spain, the Basque, and Cyprus, northern Cyprus, and etc. But if you think of it logically, if you reject the notion that Kosovo is a precedent, then it doesn't bother them in the same way. And I think the United States has been extremely consistent that Kosovo is not a precedent. And we have consistently supported, for example, the territorial integrity of Moldova, of Georgia, and of Russia. When the Chechens and some others started making some noise and saying, oh, thank you, we want to be part of Russia, we said it is part of Russia. We support the territorial integrity of Russia. We support Kaliningrad being part of Russia, and we've been consistent on that. So I think that over a number of years, maybe faster, but maybe not, that notion of Kosovo being a precedent will be useful to a lot of countries. And the Serbs, I don't think, are ever going to be fully thrilled with what happened. And I know this because, in the case of my family, my twin brother was married to a Serbian woman. And my niece, who's therefore Serbian, and my daughter had dinner last week in Boston. And there was a little bit of this. It's going to happen. That group of people, I think, will be unhappy. But I think at some point, Serbia is also going to have to choose. Do we want to become part of Europe? Do we want to turn towards the European Union or some other alternative? And I don't know that they have a huge number of useful alternatives. It's going to be difficult. But I think at some point they'll come along. Now, I know